the most admirable chasers you could possibly wish to see.
Hello and welcome to the Racehour review show with myself, Stephen Cass, and joined as usual by Diarmuid, Nolan and Tony Keenan. Tony, still doing the count up in Cavan Monaghan, are they?
Yeah, it took their time, Stephen. We had a minister there for a long time. We decided she's gone, and we decided to get her small bit in the limelight. Well, either that or they were charging for the sandwiches over in Cavan, and they wanted to get the last out. But I hope there's expensive the sandwiches to have over in your shop there.
Yeah, they go up the prices the day goes on as well in here, so it'll be the right way to do it with the Cavan Monaghan model. I'm actually outside the shop, and I've absolutely no idea why. It's Tuesday night. We're recording this at 8 o'clock. And there's a nation once again and belting out outside a pipe band. You can probably some of you hear it. So I presume they're celebrating 2 Sinn Féin seats in the Waterford constituency. We're a long way from the border down here. I think that we've got two Sinn Féin in. Congratulations to customer Connor McGuinness for getting in, of course. Right, Tony, how'd the punting go?
Terrible. Got everything wrong this weekend. Oh God, I should have known. You know that? Like, I thought Saturday at Fairyhouse was very interesting card, but it was terrible for betting on. The only opinion I had was the 2 mile handicap chase, like the Diarmuid equivalent. And sure, back 2 horses, and they proceeded to take each other on for the first 3 quarters of the race. So like, that was kind of a wipeout. And then on Sunday, I was going racing. I got too sucked into back in Heartwood and Teupu. I knew the kind of ground wasn't ideal, and they were drifting. And I said, I give them a chance on the form book. And Asher Heartwood might have maybe won another day. Teupu had no chance with Lossiemouth for them. And then the one horse I really did fancy the weekend, Helicon, was an on-runner. So, yeah, one to forget. But Joe, we'll move on. I think Diarmuid is better news in that regard, thank God.
Well, I was going to go into it and say, Diarmuid, I presume another losing weekend. Teeing them up so the listeners and viewers know what's coming next. The big drum roll. Go on, Diarmuid, Nolan.
No, just look, Cass, finally, a stop clock and all that. Finally had a good weekend, a very good Friday. Almost handed it all back on Saturday, but thank God Sir Gino and Mr. McGee came through. And then I was on the Champ.ie podcast with Barry Doyle, and we kind of talked ourselves into the Sir Gino and Lossiemouth double. So yeah, a cracking weekend. You had an all both emotionally and financially fortuitous weekend over at Newbury, I assume?
Yeah, it was a winning weekend. Now, fair play, local Dungarvan man, Niall Houlihan, of course, he rides a lot for Gary Moore. He came up to meet all the Dungarvan crew. He was up with us, cup of tea. We were chatting away for ages, and obviously we got around to horses or whatever. And the patron was running later on, and I was just saying, he'd have a bit of a chance, fresh Niall. And Niall said, he'd have a right chance now. He's flying at home. And checked the exchange. It was 40-1 on the exchange. So we'd actually had a bit of a decent bet now. People never talk about stakes. We should talk about this. I have no problem saying stakes. So anyway, it's 40 quid at 40. And my brother wanted a tenner of it then when the horse was down to 12-1, of course. Standard stuff. So I had to give away a tenner of it at 40. But it's great, and fair play to Nigel, and sure, that made the whole Friday. We all backed it, and then we were on it. So we had a great time. Tony, review-wise, we go to you first, and you want to touch on the new machine from Willie Mullins, or is it, Alzadam?
Yeah, I suppose he's the one that's come into the picture over the weekend. A lot of champion hurdle stuff going on the last couple of weeks, and he's after sparking another layer to it, I suppose. I never know what to do with these French horses coming over to Ireland first time out. Somebody's at Mullins, it's the longer they're off, the better the chance. I actually don't like back, and I think his friend, the horse he gets from France, to run back within 6 months off and kind of disappoint early on. They might do something later on, but this lad was off, I think, 11 days, so he was well tuned into the way things are done there. Watched his last start in France, and he actually had been really impressive. Now, he kind of came from behind, basically on the bridle, and went clear on the bridle. And it wasn't dissimilar on Saturday. Visually, very nice performance. More the hood. It's down in the form book, his first time hood. Now, looking at him in France, he did wear the hood. I don't think they just declared them over there. So, Townend kind of implied afterwards that he is quite a hot so-and-so. So he might be one that they kind of wants that bit of a hold-up ride. Jumping was a bit very good at times. I think there were at least 2 significant mistakes. But the one thing that stood out, I suppose, was on the clock. His sectional from kind of over the last half mile or from 3 out, whichever part you're measuring from, was far and away the fastest on the card. And it wasn't a farce of a race pace-wise. That was all really impressive. To be beating this, what looks a strong crop of Irish 4-year-olds, is probably a fair performance too. Calaconte was fit. She was coming off a recent win. I do think that she's probably going to be more of a stayer in time, but certainly a good start. I suppose where they send him next is going to be the thing. He's probably third in the pecking order of theirs of the champion hurdle. They seem to be talking about the international or what was the Beulah late January in Cheltenham. It'll be a different test altogether, soft ground and a stiff track there. Mullins, that's one thing I noticed about him when he was talking about Lossiemouth. He said he didn't want to run her there because he was giving out kind of about the penalty structure. She would have a grade 1 penalty. That must be a grade 2. That's just something that he must be kind of sort of playing to his mind a lot about the penalties. But yeah, hands to them, very impressive. But maybe on slower ground at Cheltenham on the new course, I think the race in January might be a different story.
Diarmuid, you love a 4-year-old going into open company, or you know, you're not against it. Dare I say you were impressed with this fella as well?
I was, but I was more taken by just how Willie spoke about him afterwards on the Sunday. I love on the Sunday when Willie talks with Gary O'Brien. He rattles through the whole weekend, that the thing there. And just the way that he said awesome. You know, he said this was an awesome performance. Willie, obviously, he does talk them up. He's not slow either to do that. But generally, he kind of reserves those phrases for ones that he's really enthused about. And he clearly loves this lad. But the thing that I really wanted to say, Cass, was 2 years ago, you rattled through this very impressive monologue, actually, Cass, about horses joining this yard from France, us not seeing them for about 365 plus days, and then all of a sudden them rattling out and producing these unbelievable kind of performances. Clearly he's the master, Willie, but that's probably an angle worth looking into. I've kind of tried to go through horse race base today to try and find some way of doing it, but it's too big a string of query to try.
They don't have the French form, which is a little bit of a pity there. I've often thought I'd like to do that myself. I use horse race base as well, but it just doesn't pick up the runners on the continent. It's a pity even they've Aidan O'Brien stuff there in the summer. Yeah, a lot more runners in France. It is just not there, unfortunately.
Even just to have like horses coming from outside the jurisdiction, like, you know, some sort of a kind of model like that. But anyway. But Cass, it is mad, isn't it? Like how often this story happens that this horse joins, don't see them for ages, and then bang, they're out, they're flying, isn't it?
Yeah, and not just French horses. I mean, well, Kilcross was an unusual one. Say he was 256 days. I found a little, you know, I wrote it down here once upon a time while you were talking. I found it. Now this is going back 3 years, but for example, when he won everything one weekend, the DRS. These were the breaks before they had the first run for Willie Mullins. So Maze Runner and Kilcross had 280 days. Monkfish had 369 days before he had his first run for Willie. Gardamanil 385. Kemby 495. Appreciated 622. Energumene 672. And Chacun Pour Soi 1,089 days. Now they were just his winners that weekend, but it just... The longer the break, the bigger the certainty, isn't that it? And it's been thus forevermore with Willie. And yeah, you're dead right. And interesting to see when a good horse comes out. Do not be worried about it, I would say. Tony, on to the weekend review then in Fairyhouse. So we had the Drinmore and the Royal Brand. The Drinmore, very, very messy race, wasn't it?
Yeah, the Drinmore, I think I've mentioned this before. There's a few examples of this over the last year or so. The Don Run at Cheltenham, I'd say last year's John Dorkin. The Drinmore is just a race to scratch from the form book. No pace at all. And they went I think compared to the Mayor's handicap chase that was over the same track and trip, they were 10 seconds slower from the first to the line. And obviously the Mayor's would be much lower class than them. It was quite strongly run. But I think the only thing that mattered kind of when they got the 3 out was track position and how well you were going to jump the last 3. And Yaman Crow Park had track position in his favour and jumped them probably better than any of them. And I think there's probably a lot of false signals from the race. The Gorgeous Tom looked as if he's flown home when another 50 yards would have won. Yeah.
Tony, we're not disappointed with Firefox's finishing effort now, given if you said they went to crawl, it should suit him in a way.
I'll come to that now in a second. So I think the thing with Gorgeous Tom is he looks like he's finished there. So I said that means absolutely nothing. I'm not saying he's going to definitely finish badly or the next day, but it just means nothing because they've gone such a crawl. Very type of race, not very repeatable. I suppose the question would be asked is why did some of the other jockeys not go up and press Sam Ewing on Crow Park? I can kind of see why Keith Donoghue wouldn't do it now. Like Elliott had been saying a number of times as he thought Firefox might be a 2-miler. Maybe he just didn't want to kind of bottom him out by forcing him over to it. And he thought maybe that he would win the kind of speed test. But Stephen, I think these races are so farcical that like a 3-furlong sprint, is there any national hunt horse that's really suited to be done? It's the Firefox's thing is jumping from the front or close to the front at a strong pace rather than 2.5 miles at a steady pace. Now, Darragh O'Keefe might have been the person you'd be asking more questions of, because he was the horse coming back in trip that had won over the guts of 3 miles at Wexford. Now, I only thought of this after the race. I wish I'd thought it beforehand. I just wonder, like, he would have been the obvious one that really should have been up impressed. I just wonder, had there something in mind with the ground with him? They didn't want to give him a really hard race. Like, in my very limited experience of dealing with people with horses and things like that, is like if they go a slow pace, they don't get a hard race. But if you go a faster pace on ground that's a bit fast for you, you could have a very sore horse the next day. And I just wondered, did he not want to press it? You could easily turn around and say, God, it was a grade 1. It might be the best chance he ever gets of winning a grade 1. Why do you not just go all out and win it? I don't know the answer to that. And you could certainly, I know he's been riding very well, but it was a little bit of a questionable ride for me. So it's a race to draw no kind of conclusion from. And as to the Royal Bond, I should have downgraded this to a grade 2, and looking at this result, it'll be well deserved. Romeo Coolio, things seem to set up well for him with the stablemate coming out. He got a lovely run through it. Travelled well, maybe a little bit keen, but just there wasn't a lot on him after 2 out. Maybe he'd prefer slower ground. And the horse that's beating him, Toon Savator, what was rated 130 up and into it. Beaten 4 times over hurdles, beaten in a handicap his previous run. Probably should have beaten Romeo Coolio twice as far if he got out a bit sooner too. I'd say it puts a fair lid on the form. So yeah, probably one of the weaker Royal Bonds of recent times, I would have thought.
Yeah, one comment I'd make on going back to the Drinmore is, geez, now it's probably a foolish thing to say, but the Supreme really isn't working out great. You know, when you look at how Slade Steele ran, when you look at Mystical Power at the weekend, and there's kind of nothing else in the Supreme Part 3 then. I think maybe one horse might have won a big Kenrith chase in England out of it. I think that's I wouldn't say the Punchdown race was great either. You know, the grade was, they were kind of knocking into each other a bit and kicked out of the way by Ballyburn. So maybe, what do you think, Tony?
Well, I think Alan King's horse came out and won the Scottish champion hurdle, you know, the handicap equivalent there.
That's right.
But I'd say that's the only half decent race, and he probably would have hated the ground in the spring.
That's the only win from it. Yeah. I couldn't remember what it was. I remember going through it earlier and there was one. Yeah. So
the bumper looks more as well.
Yeah. But anyway, that's just an angle. Dermot, there was a lot of good racing over the weekend. You want to touch on Caldwell Potter?
Yeah, just look, Cass, you know, he's a half brother to your favourite horse, Mighty Potter. So I absolutely love him. I really love this horse. Thought that jump at the first.
Oh my God!
Thought that horse at the first that jump at the first was absolutely beautiful. I also thought he jumped left throughout. So look, we learned very little about him, but he's a big beauty of a horse. I kind of really look forward to him. I hope he looked again to me like a chase or like a stayer. Sorry. So I think him versus Ballyburn at some point will be an absolute cracker. You know, as in him last Christmas, that win at Leopardstown was brilliant as well. So like, it is good to see. He's a cracking horse, and Paul Nichols really obviously loves him as well. So he's one that I really looking forward to. Then the last one, Kat, this is more of a question for you. Jericho de Repine is a horse that is clearly very talented. Do you think he dogged it on Saturday, or do you think they were holding him up now for something like the Betfred hurdle? Because I actually can't he skied the first few. He really was a pure wrong and over them. But then I thought he could have won that race now, like if he properly wanted to. Also, same race, Salver. You must have been happy with Salver, were you?
Terrible. I was at the races, like, drinking 12 pints. I can't tell you any horse that ran at Newbury. So I couldn't tell you what days you're going to
I'll tell you so. Yeah, look, I'll tell you. Salver, I thought that was Betfred hurdle prep all over.
Salver, I couldn't tell you how he ran, right? But obviously it's the same yard, so I asked Niall Hoolan about him, obviously, on the Friday, knowing that, I'd like to back Salver. Thought the ground was going against him. And, you know, he said, he'll be off and he'll be trying. But in his way, he put me off big time. And he said, this fella's they're really, this season is parking the bus until chasing. Like, they really think it's a chaser. But I'd say you're right. Like, you got a good deep ground handicap hurdle. That would be the one for him. So couldn't tell you where he finished in the race or anything though now after saying that.
No worries. Him and Jericho. But are that so? there was no takeaway. So from the weekend, bar, did you hate that? You really hated that Paul Nichols joke on Friday, didn't you?
Yeah. I don't like him at all now. The expensive horse, Regent Stroll,
700 grand or whatever it was, the Ferguson horse, isn't it?
Didn't like him. Didn't like his attitude at all. When you're at the races now, you see small things, all right. And I wasn't. Saturday was nearly a continuation. I was better on the Friday. So yeah, didn't like him. Didn't think he's any good, and he won't do anything against the Irish horses. That'd be the verdict. Caldwell Potter, Diarmuid, I watched him back. He jumps very low and very long. Like he's next to the weight to happen. Didn't like the way he carried himself.
He's a pure stayer. I love him. Yeah, pure stayer.
Yeah, well, you can bet.
You can argue against
him. Yeah. And the one I just thought was sensational. And we went to the pre-parade ring for every race pretty much before. Had a good look at them, and I thought the Jukebox Man is one of the best looking horses you'd ever see. You're always biased here when you bet because you like him, but I thought he looked wicked fat, and I was like, oh geez, my money's done because it was an anti-post and I had no way out. And, oh my God, I thought he was just incredible. He reminded me of something like Sackville jumping around Leopardstown. Sackville, that's old school now, 30 years ago, I suppose. But he's such a good jumper, and he was a little bit too big, which you don't like to see. But he kind of learned as the race went on and got better. The last three, he was really tidy over and dead straight. I love when they're straight as a gun barrel over the fences. I tell you, it's going to take some right good Irish horse to beat him now. I think he's really good. The Jukebox Man. I'll follow him now, I'd say, until he's beaten anyway. Loved him. And then in terms of Newbury and the whole experience, wouldn't recommend it enough to anyone. It's the best racetrack I've ever been to, I think. It's a lovely town. The food is good. Easy to get a drink on the track. The staff extremely friendly. You know when you go to Cheltenham, there's a little air of the toilets are danger and a little air of trouble in the air. Do you know what I mean? If you're going through, none of that. Lovely crowds.
We all feel that around you, let alone anyone else. But yeah, go on.
Yeah. Me shaping around the place. No. It was a fabulous place. The staff were magnificent. Easy to get a drink. Definitely go. Actually, met a good few heads over there as well. Brendan Duke was over there. And a few lads from Powers, Cathal Carroll, and a few others that people had know from the old Dublin Racing Club days. So it'd be a great time. Highly recommend it. What am I meant to move on to here now, producer Diarmuid? I'm after getting rattled here. So we're going to talk about Lossiemouth and Sir Gino. So Tony, go to you first. Lossiemouth, Sir Gino, what did you think?
Don't have a massive Sir Gino take beyond that Mystical Power didn't turn up, and I did think it was a little bit strange that he was still riding the ears off him after the last, like he wanted to find out what he had, or I don't know. There's nothing there in the bare form to get too excited about, but would respect the fact that Henderson got it totally right, put him into the right race, and he was quite impressive. Lossiemouth blew me away, to be honest, lads. Like I do realise that like a completely unsuitable race for TU, just with the pace they went and the ground was against them. But couldn't get over the confidence behind Lossiemouth in the market, because I had heard that she wasn't going to be ready to Christmas a few weeks prior. Again, Mullins tends not to run them unless they're pretty close to doing their justice, but I didn't think that was great vibes. And she was half the price basically. Then she half the fourth class as well. And he kind of got put into a pocket by the Elliott, the kind of second, third string jockeys, and Townend just sat there for another while, and then just came down the bridle last. So really impressed her. I do acknowledge that I'm not going to be backing up for a champion hurdle now or anything like that. I don't want to back anything for it at the moment, but I couldn't but be impressed with the way she did it.
Yeah, she was all. You wouldn't be a bit worried about her head carriage. No, she does carry herself a bit funny, doesn't she? But did she always do that, Tony? I can't remember now. Go back to say.
I don't know that now. I look, in fairness to her, like she should be unbeaten. Like the day she lost at the DRF in the 4-year-old race, like the Springs, or she should have won that day as well. So I'm not going to crib her attitude now, and she's like that. I crib enough.
Yeah, no, and you couldn't
go wrong.
And she really runs through the line as well. You couldn't crib her. Diarmuid, what did you think of the two Donnelly superstars?
Yeah, she blew me away. First of all, anyway, absolutely thing. Real pity at that Mystical Power didn't turn up, because I do think Sir Gino is very, very good. I thought he kind of pulled himself stupidly in the first 3-4 hurdles. He settled beautifully, then he pulled away, but we learned very little. You know, he beat Lump Sum, who's a fine horse, but he's not this like. So the division overall is kind of fierce exciting, but we still haven't learned a whole pile more, because look, the Elliott jockeys should hang their head in shame a little tiny bit, because they really set that up beautifully. I mean, to treat him, how they didn't have the wherewithal to leave, say, just like have one goal, like try and make her show a bit of stamina, because she hasn't really had to before. She's just been too good. And again, now on Saturday, she just pranced through. She's a brilliant horse, but we didn't learn a whole lot about either of them. Has your Sir Gino opinion softened at all, Cass?
A little bit, but I'd have to see him go do it again, because it was
Yeah.
that was like
Proper race. Yeah.
an Irish conditions race. It wasn't even a graded race. That was really, really poor now. And I didn't get blown away from the way a lot of people did after the race, but I wouldn't be cribbing him either.
No. Same.
Yeah, his jumping was a tiny bit. It was a bit better, but it wasn't great early, and he was keen early. And I think there's a good quirk in him, but judge it on the next one, But it's a hell of a champion picture anyway. At least it's exciting this year. Notebook horses, Tony, have you anything to stick in the notebook this week?
Yeah, I'm going to give you two, kind of for the same reason and the same jockey. I wouldn't have been too but the rider either, to be honest. First one is from Saturday. Good handicap hurdle there, second last at Fairyhouse. Farmers Lodge won it really impressively. But there's a horse called Queen Nell. Was with Ria Cody. It's now with Ed Delaney. I thought she shipped a fair bit better than the form. Garage Roder was riding her. Went down the inner for a gap that wasn't really there. Now, he did get that run. I'm not a massive lover of that as a move, but I think a couple of things can happen. It did happen in his case. I think kind of unbalanced his mount, first of all, which is never easy to recover from, and you finish up going for your race sooner than he did. This just after 3 out, he went for this on the turn-in. She's kind of got to press the kind of lead there, coming to 2 out, and then kind of she ploughed the second last as well, and he just gave up on her, which was he was totally within his rights, because she probably wasn't getting home at that stage. So maybe go back to 2 maids, maybe slow ground maid too. I think she's finished 9th or 10th there, so hopefully it won't be cop. Oh yeah, and she also lost the shoe, which adds another thing to the case. And then probably be stronger on this one. The mayor's handicap chase that opened the card on Sunday. I kind of thought at the time this was probably woeful for him, but having read Cromwell afterwards, the kind of impressive winner Lamal Maison, I thought she was exposed last year, but he said she's had a kiss and spines operation, and having not jumped well at all last season, her jumping was actually excellent on Sunday, so I'm going to upgrade that for my head a little bit. But the eye catcher here to me was a horse called called Dion's Diamond. She jumped very well for a horse that had been off for a year and was only having her second chase start running against handicappers. And again, Rhoda went for a gap down the inside after 3 out, or at 3 out, got a little bit unbalanced, put up Broomfield Bijou, finished up getting there too soon, jumped the second last in front, and then kind of flattened out, actually hit even money in running. So again, maybe down and trip with her. There was a bit of money knocking about for her despite the long break. Philip Rothwell having plenty of winners at the minute at his level. So they were made to, and I'm hoping they will be kind of biggest prices the next time, instead of one finished 9th and one finished 4th. So Dion's Diamond, probably for some sort of handicap chase, and Queen Nels for probably a low grade handicap board, both which can compete in mares only company.
Very good. Very good. Thank you, Tony. And Dermo, your notebook horse?
Yeah, so all this top class racing on at Newbury and Fairyhouse. So I go up to Newcastle in the north of England for my notebook horse of the week. Blackwater Lily really caught my eye. Was running behind a small town kid of James Ewart. I think that's how you say it, Ewart, or you can think that. But anyway, this horse, the winner was actually very impressive. But the second, she hit the last, and Craig Nicholl really kind of brought her home, but she travelled beautifully into it. This was her first run over hurdles. There's just going to be plenty of races up the north where she'll have plenty of opportunity. I just think here she's after bumping into quite a good horse. He's an Irish point-to-point winner. They kind of spent a few quid on him, and she just couldn't get him back. But once Craig Nicholl realised that, he kind of eased her down. She still got within 2 lengths in the end, and that was with a very soft ride, I thought. So next time for old Brian Ellison, Blackwater Lily, I think, Cass, she's a winner waiting.
Very good, Brian Ellison. It'll be up to North Newcastle again or something. I don't I'm not great at these notebook horses. I've been nearly dead against horses most of the time, but maybe I'll go with that angle from now on, because one that will never ever win a race in the UK is that General on Chef, the horse that came over from France in the Car Gold Cup. I had actually watched his win in France the last day, and they just went to crawl and just kind of let him win. It was an odd race. He was flashing his tail mad. And I turned to the lad beside me. I said, "You should have put a lay-off on this thing and run it." This is after time now. Sorry, I shouldn't be saying that. But I didn't put up a lay and running. But he was just, you could see him coming. He came there swinging. He touched 1 to 2 in running, or maybe shorter even. He might have gone 1 to 5 or something like that. And the tail went, and he found nothing. Everyone will be tipping him for it. He goes another handicap chase in England, and he'll be put close on favourite. That horse will never win a race in England or Ireland. He'll just click out, and that'll be that. So my notebook was general on Shep.
You can actually flip that. That'll be good actually. So you're going to put up horses like an Ante notebook.
I'm happy to do it. I see more of them than I do the ones I want to back the next time. So yeah. Right, so that's our notebook.
Brand on Tony's in here.
Moving on to the talking points. Tony, you have kind of teed us up to do some interesting moves from Gordon Elliott with declarations.
Yeah, do you want the full list here? So we may as well the facts out there. Okay, so look, I think anyone who's watching or following Irish racing at the weekends even can see this has been happening to a fairly elevated level since the first big meeting at Diarmuid and through all the big meetings. Gordon Elliott is just repeatedly declaring multiple runners in goodish races or novice and maiden horns and bumpers, and is taking one out on the day of the race. Like, I just go through it here. Downroyal, first day of Friday, race the Yellow Clay wins. Wingman was a non-runner. Stone Bruise. Bumper the same day. Jacob Flatter wins at Calypso's Chance. Non-runner, he was lame. Then the following day at Downroyal, Classical Creek wins the bumper. Cocktail Brute out. Stone Bruise. Betting these the next day after the run, the non-runners might be a shout actually. Then at Navan, the bumper on the Saturday, Winnie Hill was the horse that they ran, hit one. I'm pretty sure He Can't Dance was the non-runner against Stone Bruise. Couple of probably less significant ones at Navan on the Sunday in the race that the Yellow Clay won and Parliament was placed in. Then we went to Punchestown for the first day of their meeting. Jacob Flatter ran the bumper. Jacks Hill was a non-runner due to unsuitable ground. And then we're Fairyhouse were kind of kicked off into probably more extreme than any of them so far. The bumper on the named after his uncle on the Saturday, Cocktail Brute was a non-runner due to unsuitable ground. I'm going to suggest the ground was very, very similar on Sunday when he won half the track. And then Blue Devassi was declared for the Royal Bond on non-runner on suitable ground. Stellar Story in the Fairyhouse in the Drinmore, non-runner on suitable ground. He had run 8 days previous at Punchestown, and then again in the Cocktail Brute bumper, He Can't Dance with non-runner on suitable ground. I'm just going to hark back to something Gigginstown were at about 2013. I was looking this up. Like basically they went through a phase there, but for a long time of multiple declarations, non-runners on race days. The Turf Club, as it was at the time, kind of banned one for running for a couple of days. It was a horse called Devil's Pride. It was actually Willie Mullins that trained it, and there was a bit of an uproar about it. He was due to run one day, to took him out. I think it was on suitable ground, and he went to run at another track the next day, and they wouldn't let him run. But I'm going to just quote Michael O'Leary from the time. Very interesting quote here. He says, "This, when he was challenged on, this is going to continue. I'm going to declare 2 or 3 horses for the big races on the Sundays this season, knowing that one or the other will not run because the ground will eventually not suit one of them. Ground's a key factor, and we asked to declare on a Friday morning for big races on a Sunday afternoon." And then it just stopped. And I would say someone had a quiet word in his ear that maybe just this isn't the right way to be doing it. And I just wish someone would have a word in the ear of Elliott, because it's just not in the spirit of it there. You're looking at races and you just know that these two horses, they may clash at some point in the season, but they're not going to clash now in November and December. And tracks can't really complain, because if he doesn't turn up at his runs this time of year, they've no kind of races. And I'd also, maybe the IHRB need to go out and have a little look at it. Maybe they need to get someone to pick up a few stones or something. I don't know. There seems to be a lot of stones lurking about anyway. But I wouldn't be a fan of it. And look, I am not suggesting this for a minute, but if someone does have the information to do this, there is the opportunity for serious manipulation of Rule 4s and stuff like that. We all know that the Rule 4 is massively in the favour of the punter. If you know one is running and the other's running, and they're kind of anyway fancied, you can really you smash the starting price anyway if that information is kind of accessible to you. So even just in the spirit of things, like we all know with 48-hour decks, there are going to be non-runners, they're going to be ground chases. Like even at Christmas now, there's going to be 72-hour, 96-hour decks. Fair enough, non-runners, but I think doing it, I don't really like the way it's done on a strategic basis, which seems to be the way it's been played out here.
Very good. And the stewards, there's nothing, I know you do read stewards reports, you haven't probably read all of these, but nothing has come of these of late.
No, nothing that I have seen. It does seem to have ramped up in the last 5 or 6 weeks, so maybe they're still kind of coming to grips with how they're dealing with it. They did hit that horse now back in 2013, which to put a stop to it, but it's quieted down a little bit, so maybe they need to do so again. Like even they could have hit that horse in the bumper now on Saturday and just said, no, he's not running for 48 hours. They're clearing him on similar ground the next day, and he was the second string in that race, and well, he was well backed anyway and won well.
Yeah, and you can take it. Yeah, like you say, betting marks can be manipulated. Not to say they're doing it. But I think one thing as well is if you're getting into the game, or you're a small time punter, that stuff's really, really annoying because the likes of us that nearly know won't run. I remember going racing with my dad back to it about 10 years ago or something, and Jigginstown were at this mess, and he was going, "Geez, that's a great race." And I was going, "Well, that the other thing won't be running." And he could not believe this was happening. And he'd be a man watching racing every week, but like he wouldn't be tuned into the nuances of it. So it's not fair on the Joe Soap having his lucky 15s in the bookies either. The fella that's only half tuned into racing. And at the end of the day, they do pay the bills, even though owners like to think it's only them paying the bills. Dermo, a talking point for you. Trainers to follow or watch out for in December.
Yeah, so just one of the main things that I learned, the first thing basically was my first job in the industry was in race caller. Actually, you'd have known them from your Dublin Racing Club days, actually, Cass. And Eugene Cosgrove there, he used to build all the trends, and he always said to me, if you just take a look at trainers over the course of 10 years, you'll be able to figure them out quite quickly. They kind of they really are cyclical beasts, like. And Henry de Bromhead is really interesting because he's one of the few who over the last 5-6 years has really changed his kind of how he operates. So basically before 2021, he was very much a trainer who used November to warm up his horses, and then his strike rate would kind of improve. So he had like 7, 8, kind of 9% strike rate. Then in December that improved and he kind of kicked on. Then all of a sudden in 2021, that jumped to like a whopping 23%. He then went from there, and then since then it hasn't dropped below 17. And this November, he actually had the best month of November he ever had. So he operated at 25% and a place rate of 50%. Like serious going altogether. But you will hear now over the next few weeks that Henry de Bromhead, his horse is in great form. Just a warning to all our listeners, don't just follow them blind now because he's in flying form. This goes off a cliff badly. Back in 2021, he went from 23% for 1 month. Then the following month, right smack bang, in the middle of December, he was down to 8%. Like it's a proper fall off, and it just makes no sense there. So basically, he's a trainer who, as he's going, he's now using November to kind of properly launch off. As Willie hasn't got going yet, then he kind of falls off a cliff. He's basically picking his better horses. He's holding them back for the springtime. And also, as Tony pointed out, Willie's only getting going now. So he's going to struggle next month as well. So just, he's a trainer there. But right in the opposite then is Nicky Henderson. He's a trainer who for October and for half of November, he operates about 12%. Then all of a sudden, he takes off. So for the last 3 weeks, he's operating at 30%. And then for the month of December, over like an average since 2011, he is now operating at an average of 27%. So he's just absolutely flying there. So he's a trainer as well now that you really can know. So he's one to follow, and poor Henry de Bromhead, he might just be one to avoid.
Does Hendo keep it going, Dermo, over Christmas and New Year's normally? Or does his, the way Nichols goes away in January a bit because of flu jabs? Henry usually does after January, February.
He jabs his horses while Hendo tends to do it towards the end of kind of January. So that time when all that kind of came in, Hendo was ahead of it because him and Nichols had it all done already, but he tends to keep it going the whole way through that month. He operates with a 27%. That's an average since like 14 years now. So it's just, he kind of slowly gets going. Then kind of last weekend, he really hits the ground and now he just flies. So all his horses, like there's like pulled up horses, they will start winning. He's just madness altogether. He completely flips the book now as well. You know, him and Willie Mullins, like thing there, well, Henry the Bromhead, he seems to now be the opposite. He's starting very fast. Then he's slowing himself down. He's clearly picking the right ones to go for the festivals. And then he kind of takes off then. So just kind of, you will read all over Twitter, oh, he's in great form, but just be wary of it, because back in 2021, he went for 23%, back down to 8%. He's on 25% now. I just wouldn't be surprised at all to see that fall off a cliff as well, Cass.
Okay, two very interesting talking points from Tony and Diarmuid. Fair play, lads. It's a quick podcast this week, but probably no harm now. It's about 3 hours work still this evening. On to the anti-post section, and it has to be said, we are absolutely disgracing ourselves here. I think Tony, the one you put up, non-runner in the Beecher, my one
can't even get a runner, Stephen. Hewick non-runner on the day, and I'm nearly going to ban myself from putting up anything for a month here, and yeah, man, it's going to sicken me now because he's in the bloody Welsh National and the Paddy Power as well, so I can do nothing with him now. I don't know what to do with him. So yeah, I'm just going to keep my mouth shut.
Okay. So done for Tony this week. And to be honest, I'm going to let you decide whether this one goes up or not, right? So, you know, I was talking about Fugitive, and, you know, he'll be favoured for the December Gold Cup and has a great chance. He'll have an £11 swing with El Redondo. These English handicap chases, as we saw with the race of the weekend, geez, are not as strong as they have in other years. You could be talking about 10 or 11 runners or something in the December Gold Cup. And Fugitive, everyone's going to be tipping him. So I backed him now on Sunday, right? I saw the bet was up and he was 12-1. I reckon he's going to go off 4-1. Tony, tell me now, should you be recommending him at 8-1? I always think you have to really half in price to be looking at Ante or something, but he'll surely definitely run. There's a bit of rain forecast in the next week, which will suit him. Not much now, maybe 15 mils. Mathematically, Tony, tell me now, should I be putting him up now in an Ante column? If I think he's going to go off 4, he's 8 now.
I personally would, because look, if the price, I know you've this kind of anchoring bias. You've seen the price that was there shortened up a bit, but it's where the price is going to, not where it's coming from. It is the thing. I do think you've hit the nail on the head though. With regard to weather's the key thing with him. I think he's effective on good ground, but he's must be £7 better on the bit slower.
Yeah, I agree. And there's rain forecast, but not tons and tons and tons. And at the same time, it's only 12 days away, you know. So look, it's the December Gold Cup as well. You'd imagine it's basically the target nearly for the whole season, and he had a lovely prep on. He was so eye-catching in the Paddy Power Gold Cup. So in he goes into the portfolio, and I'll be hooping and hollering if he wins, even though he's only half going in. But yeah, Fugitive 8-1, I still think it's a very good price for the December Gold Cup. Diarmuid, have you anything to add to your very long and terrible list?
Terrible list, yeah. I really like Broken Halo. He's 12-1 for the London National. Basically, he runs here off 133. That's the exact same mark as last season on his reappearance when he should have won this race. He fell 2 out when he was absolutely cantering all over them. The key thing here, though, is that he's 12-1 for this race when the favourite Mr. Vango, he was pulled up last year in the Scottish Grand National on soft ground. Now, the jockey Ben Jones said that day that the ground wasn't soft enough for him. So I think his running should be kind of in question here, because it's good to soft ground at the moment. The forecast is all over the place. Some websites have a load of rain, some websites have none. The clerk of the course said today that it's looking like that rainstorm could go to France now, whatever that means. But basically, they could stay here. So that favourite now at 11-2, he mightn't run. So this horse at 12-1, he'll be shorter. Nichols has won 2 of the last 4, and the other 2 renewals, he had no runner. So his last 2 runners in the last 4 years have won, bar this lad who fell. So thing there. But he's 12-1. He's got serious course record. He goes on any ground. He should have won this race last year. He races off the exact same weight. And I just think he's a cracking bet here at 12.
Okay, excellent case made, Diarmuid, to be fair now. And I'm having a look at odds checker. We'll give it to you. There's one remaining book U12, See a Blue, and I'd say it's coming the last couple of hours. So in fairness to you, 12 is very very well flagged up. Well, I neglected once again to mention our sponsors, Gambling.com and Betfred. Dermot, you should have been saying now we'd start that again. Unprofessional on your part, I would say there. So we'll have to watch that next week. But Betfred, you're the best bookie
right
out
there on the
You're
screen
great.
anyway throughout. It's fine.
Yeah, okay. Okay, and have we anything else to cover, producer Dermot?
All is good. Just a big thanks to you and everyone, Cass. That's all.
Yeah, and thanks to Tony Keenan. 40 minutes.
All right.
Yeah. My wife said I could never make 40 minutes. Dermot said I could never make 40 minutes on the pod. Someone's been proved wrong today. So we've done it. Thanks to everyone. Thanks to Gambling.com, Betfred, Tony Keenan, Diarmuid, Nolan, and listen to our preview show coming out this Friday.
Relentless, remorseless, and pounded Caldwell Potter into submission.